Good morning, Andy. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, thank you very much for saying yes to be interviewed today. For all the listeners, it's a highly anticipated guest on my show to date, simply because of the energy I felt across, wait, hang on, 8,000 miles across the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. I am so delighted to be here, Nicolette, and you listeners. I'm so happy you're joining us for this delicious conversation.
Delicious. I love that tagline. My tagline is that you're worthy and you're enough.
Yes, 100%.
So, Andy, I would like to read a bit of your bio for our listeners today, and then we can get right into the conversation. So, hey everyone, we have Ande Lyons here, who is a four-time founder, a former global startup mentor, a serial podcast and live stream host since 2012, and currently the host of Don't Be Caged by Your Age, an interview style podcast helping folks thrive after 65. For 12 years, Anya has been edutaining folks with delicious conversations through podcasts, 750 episodes to date, and live streaming, 250 episodes. Wow. Anya has been unemployed since 1992. She raised millions of VC capital for .com she co-founded, thousands in angel funds for a food business she founded and scaled nationally in less than 2 years. And she's had several other businesses she launched and built on a shoestring budget. For 2015 to 2023, she was a global startup mentor and an accelerator mentor with Mass Challenge, E for All, MIT, etc. For 3 years, she co-hosted a monthly pitch event in Boston where founders had 99 seconds. Oh, this is like Shark Tank, I guess.
Oh, yeah, they should be so lucky to have that many. Only 99 seconds. Think about that.
Yeah. To pitch your value prop to a lively audience and a panel of investors. From 2020 to 2023, she hosted the Startup Live show. Delicious conversation with diverse startup founders from around the world, airing live twice a week across LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Well, today she is focused on shattering ageism and helping folks dissolve the internalized ageist beliefs that keep them from pursuing new dreams and endeavors after 65. Wow.
Dang, who is this person? I want to meet them.
Yeah. I gotta get her signature. Andy, so tell us, before we go right into the conversation, what was it like growing up as Ande Lyons?
Well, that is a very deep subject. It was not easy. I was not a fit for my family. So, and I was severely bullied in my neighborhood for 3.5 years. And for most of my life by my family of origin. So it was because I was too much. They didn't get me, but they couldn't keep me buried. So I grew up in a very New England old Yankee family, that just, the emotions, I really would have been better growing up in Italy or someplace where they thrived on this kind of passion. And so I learned a lot about how to do what I call the country club personality. So I knew how to have good conversation. I knew, of course, as a white, blonde female from this class of humanity that I fit anywhere I wanted to go. And I learned important things like how to play golf, ride horses, ski, tennis, and how to have good cocktail conversations. But what did that do for me in life? Nothing. And so I spent quite a few years trying to find my worthiness, and I had zero worthiness, certainly from the age of 18 through 28. But when I turned 28, I learned about a program called LifeSpring. And LifeSpring was helping you become more self-actualized on an emotional level. So it took away a lot of the beliefs that we take on about ourselves, and it helped individuals get clear about the truth about who they are, and to remove a lot of the lenses that they had taken on over the years, not only to how to view the world, but how to view themselves. And so this was life-changing for me. But I knew I had to do the work. I knew I had to find a way to have an enriched, fulfilling life. And I knew my friends at that time, Nicolette, excuse me,
Oh
Nicolette.
yeah, people call me Nicole, like chocolate even. So.
And my friends at the time were like, why are you doing all this work? I mean, you're fine the way you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And so to tap into that worthiness. And so how that worthiness ended up showing up, if I can go on and talk about that, second husband. Now we've been together and madly in love for 38 years. That came into my life. And, but I also went and I applied to get my MBA. And I knew I could not take standardized tests. I'm terrible at that multiple choice stuff.
Oh,
Right. Standard. So to get into grad school in the U.S., you have to take exams, boards to get in.
Right.
And the place I wanted to go told me not once, but twice, we don't accept scores that low. But my worthiness knew that ahead of time. And my worthiness set me up so that I went and I took courses at a local university, condensed courses, 3 semesters in one, in critical thinking courses like algebra, expository writing, statistics. So I could prove to them I had the capability. I just was never going to test. You were never going to be able to test that capability. So between really great recommendations and those classes, I got accepted. And getting the MBA, could I have done what I wanted to do as a woman without the MBA? Absolutely not. It gave me credibility. You know, today I think that's different. I think it's what you build to do that. But I'm saying this for folks because when we're young and we don't know better, we get indoctrinated by our families about who we are and how we need to be in the world. We take in these internalized beliefs about ourselves that do not serve us. I am telling you, my first husband was so dangerous. My first, those years of 18 to 25 were high risk for someone who grew up in the country club sheltered environment. I left home at 18 and I had 6 years of OMG life. And I think the only thing I didn't do was shoot heroin. And so it was really tough. It was really, really tough. And I still deal with the trauma of all of it today. But it did teach me not only the fragility of life and the frailty of being human, but it showed me all walks of life. I mean, I went deep into all types of humanity, and which I never would have been able to see or have compassion or empathy for as an adult woman, given the background I grew up in. Is that a lot, listeners? Is that a lot to take in? But you asked, so I told you.
The first question was like, oh, we grew up, yeah, the childhood was okay, but you went straight in.
Well, and here's just a PS or a BTW. By the way, I divorced my family of origin when I was 58. I'm 67 now. So 9 years ago, I said, I'm out.
Really?
Yeah. And nobody fought for me to stay. So validating all of that.
Wow. Wow. Can I also share my story?
Yes. Go, girl. Go.
I mean, well, thank you. We went straight into worthiness, and my journey was a bit of kind of similar. Where I got divorced as well in 2019. So right now, how do I say complicated?
Of course, it's complicated.
Yeah, right.
Being
Single.
human is complicated, and now,
exactly. Yes, and I think. I'm now 33, so 20 to 30 I was the good girl, as in my mom and dad has always said education is important, so go, achieve, until I felt like, what was I doing in this world? What was my purpose? So again, COVID, same as everyone, I think that was the shake up moment. I got divorced in 2019, so COVID lockdown in Malaysia started in March 2020. So I threw myself into working. because I said, okay, maybe the relationship department isn't, I'm not gonna ace it. I did not even process the divorce.
The
And
loss. It's a
yeah,
loss
exactly, it's a
because you
loss.
had a
Yes,
dream of a really good partnership.
exactly. And I just sort of like put it under the rug and then just went full force on working. But then the work at the time was toxic too because everybody was adapting to work from home. So it was back to back meetings and it became this the whole spiral of just projects after projects after projects.
Yeah.
It was so bad, Andy, to and my boss, and actually that was the impetus of my podcast because he was like, few of them actually, they were bashing me mentally, like, you can't you get anything right? Like how are you this? Yeah, how are you this? It's like and in front of my subordinate, so it doesn't
Mm,
it and to thrive in that organization, you need to have some sort of a leadership style where you exude that kind of, and it's just not me.
yeah. And Nicolette, I'm just going to jump in here and say one of the
Yeah.
biggest lessons I learned from one of the founding professors of the grad school I went to, last class, last day, she said, it doesn't matter how good you are at what
Mm.
you do if you're not in an environment that is in alignment with who you are and who you be. So you brought great skills, but that environment was never going to see it. These
Mhm.
people were never going to champion you and celebrate you and your work ever. So you probably were very successful at what you did. But when you're not in the right environment, it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with relationships and families, right? In anything we do.
Oh,
I'm so
oh my
sorry
god.
you had to go through that, but at the same time, I'm so glad you did because what happened for you was you found out what didn't work and it broke part of you down so that you could build up in a new way. And if you've ever studied physics, you know chaos is key in order for us to land in a new and better place. So you have to have that blow up moment. So between your marriage blowing up and then your work blowing up, you were forced to turn to Nicolette. You were forced to say, okay, I've got to find my worthiness, right? So it was a gift, but
Nobody sum it
ouchies.
up like that to me. I had to figure that out myself.
Of course you
Andy.
did. These
Andy, are you a
lessons are,
life coach?
I've just had a lot of
You
life.
should. Oh, that felt
Ah.
so good. Thank you for I needed that. Actually today I felt quite low. But yeah, I've always been good in talking. I think I've always liked communicating with people, and so from the I was forced to take sabbatical because I couldn't take it. I think it was the universe saying, you know what, just please do something about it. So I took sabbatical for 2 months, and then I came across this therapy course from Marissa Peer. So, and back in 2021, I was like, oh, this is so expensive, and I'm like, and I was in a toxic off a job, and what if they fire me and I don't get to pay it and whatnot. And then 2023, it came up again in my feed, and I said, you know what, this is it. So I made that moment. I made that choice at the time, and I was in a new job, and the new job that I just left actually back in March. It's like an incubation period for me to prepare for this new thing that I'm jumping into. And at the same time, I said, okay, so if I'm gonna meet clients, I need to practice my talking skills. So,
Podcast.
and and I loved it. I'm enjoying myself so much. And it's like, I was focusing. So I started in February and I started my podcast in June 2023. And now my podcast is like, I'm having it almost every day right now.
Ah,
Publishing once a week, but now
wonderful.
I'm going to make it twice. And because again, the universe said to me, March, my company, the current organization had a reorg. So they said, they wanted me to vacate my role. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put my faith in you. Lord, and I'm gonna go for
Yes.
it. So
That's what happens when you say yes. When you say no, that something that doesn't work, and you say yes, I'll stay open. Miracles
yes,
happen when that happens. Magic happens when you do that. It's hard
yeah,
though. I'm not saying to anybody, there's no Pollyanna here. This is not toxic positivity.
yeah,
It's understanding that you're holding hands with fear, with doubt, and all your stuff every day. That's why shadow work is so important. That you sit there, with the
yeah.
light of your being, but you're willing to talk to fear and doubt and go, I know this is really scary, but I think I got this. But I'm so glad you shared. When you listen to those voices, they get quieter. I am just so in awe and wonder of you, Nicolette. This is extraordinary, the work that you're doing. And what I also really love is, that you found in podcasting several things that are so important. And this is, I'll get on this is my, my TED Talk, so to speak, around podcasting, which is, it is a way to be expressed unlike anything else. It is a way to build your expertise in an industry and in the algorithms, the EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, and whatever that T stands for, that it helps you do that. You get to have conversations with people who you never would have met. People love to get on a podcast, especially when it's a good host like you who helps them, get through a good conversation. But also, it can't be about the downloads. It has to be how it serves you. So you get up every day and
Yes.
you naturally want to serve someone, right? That's just your nature. So when you do a podcast, and especially when we're on social media, oh my gosh, social media will challenge anybody's worthiness, because 1 minute, Instagram will be just so into you, and the next minute it's just not into you, and you have done nothing different.
Yeah.
Yeah. With your
Yes. That's
podcast,
so
you
true.
have to remember it's the conversations, it's who's listening, not how many downloads you have. And it only takes one person for have you plant a seed, through a conversation like this. That ripple effect you will never know about, Nicolette. Never. And you just trust that one person's life will be shifted, changed in some way because you had a conversation via podcasting.
You spoke what was in my heart. Everything. It was exactly that. I guess this is a way of God saying, we got you. I always believe in hear the message. Doesn't. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I find too, if one does not grasp, right, like
Mm-hmm.
it has to be this way. There's that whole law of attraction nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
It is like saying, oh, there are no weeds in my garden, and thinking the weeds are going to disappear. No, it is a case of just saying, you know what, I have this desire. I'm going to put that desire out into the world. It may, in that intention, right? And it may come to fruition rather quickly, or it may take decades. You just
Yeah.
don't know. But you have
Yeah.
that desire, and the world, the universe, God, whomever you trust in and walk with, will show you the way, provided you don't bring your ego in, right?
Mm,
Provided you let go and let God, so to
like,
speak.
yeah.
You're certainly clear on your intentions. You're doing your strategies, but you stay open to listening for guidance. And sometimes, and certainly in my case, I had to have certain experiences in order to learn what I needed to learn to get to the next level. And so, we're talking about worthiness today. Yes, I've had 4 businesses, but my gosh, having been in the startup ecosystem, success is judged by your exit. Did you get bought for $1 bajillion? Did you have an
Yeah.
IPO? What happened? You can have a successful business for quite a few years, meaning customers, repeat customers, people are purchasing your products, your services, you're profitable, you're sustainable, and it can come to an end due to extenuating circumstances or that you're complete, whatever. It doesn't have to be this big buyout, this big mythology. It can be, it served you for a period of time. And when anybody is considering launching a business or starting a practice and a product or a service, I am the one who's got the clappers out and says, do it, because you always win. No matter what happens, there's no failure here. You're going to absolutely lose time and money. There's no doubt about that. But it is an investment in your future. And given the high failure rate of startups, it doesn't matter because you will be changed forever for the better. I think that came from a play called Wicked. But you will be, because you will tap into, and you're seeing this yourself, you'll tap into parts of yourself, who you are. You never would have seen this about yourself. You never would have tapped into those places if you hadn't launched a business. So if it doesn't work out, I don't mean to be negative, but odds and all, you'll go and take all that you've learned and start another business. So now you'll be more seasoned, or you're like, entrepreneurship is so not for me. I need to be on payroll. And so you're going to go work for someone, but now these transferable skills make you more valuable, and you'll start at a higher salary, at a better title, and you'll be bringing more to the plate.
Wow. Wow. Can I get on your podcast?
Well, you may not be old enough for my 60 plus podcast.
Oh, it's specifically for 65 plus people. Wow.
60. I do 60 because you can't talk about ageism until you've actually hit your 60s.
I will get my dad on the podcast.
There you go. I want to know about your body art. I had a podcast, a 30 episode podcast called Your Ink Story, and I interviewed people.
Oh my body. Oh my
Your tattoos.
I mean, I'm sure the guests noticed, but you're the first one who actually said.
What's the story behind that? That's a beautiful piece of art, and I'm sure there's a story behind it.
Yes, every single tattoo has a story. So this one is Magnolia, and there's a digit here saying 0145. So this is supposed to be my sister's. It's like a sister tattoo. So we said to ourselves, can we like ink something that only both of us share? So we so happened that we were born at the same time but different year.
Get out of town.
Yeah, 1:45 a.m. So she was born on September 4, 1992. I was born on November 8, 1990, 1:45.
This is for accessibility purposes, my brain just blew up. That was so cool.
Yeah, and we said, okay, what do we want? What's the image? Said, okay, what about flower? Okay, what flower? Okay, you take the flower that you like. I take the flower that I like. So I said, so it's either tulip or magnolia for me. Luckily, and she said her favorite was tulip first and magnolia. So I'm like,
here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Thank you for sharing your ink story with me.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. And I am having this conversation. We are 28 minutes in and we're just talking about I wanted to pivot to ageism, if that's all right with you.
Yes.
So, Andy, why is ageism wasting a generation of talent?
Well, what happens, folks, is that we have this idea that at a certain age, people become inconsequential. We don't need them anymore.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. And I mean, what could they know? Just because they've been coding for the last 4 years or building a tech company or, at the top of their game or not, what value do they have? They're old now. And so what happens is you have incredibly seasoned people who may not want to kill themselves anymore for the job, right?
Yes.
They don't want to, they don't need to work a 40 restricted hour week, but they still have a lot of value and so much more gifts to share with the world. But because societal and institutional, that's companies, put them into a cage because of their age, they get sent out like their horses to the pasture. And as we have greater longevity, we're causing a whole generation of folks to start tanking. They start to go downhill because they're no longer engaged, because they had to retire, or they are no longer visible. And that takes a psychological and then, of course, physical toll, and which ends up costing societies billions of dollars. Instead, institutions, companies need to be looking at this age over 65 as a resource, as a talent pool, and stop judging them and penalizing them because the clock struck midnight on a certain milestone age. Now, there are lots of people who just work until, finally I can retire. They've done zero planning for this age and stage of their life. And now they're 3 months in, 6 months in, and they've decided, yikes, like I have no purpose. And really, humans need purpose. They need a reason to get out of bed. But then they start taking these messages that society and institutions and they themselves have internalized about themselves. So I'm too old to do that. No, I'm too old to do that. I can't do that. I can't become a writer. I can't become a lawyer. I can't go back to school and learn this. A podcaster. And so it becomes this self-sabotaging, self-defeating conversation. And so through the podcast, Don't Be Caged by Your Age, I not only want to shatter these internalized ageist beliefs, I want to provide representation. Well, here's Mildred, who at the age of 68 really wanted to write this book about her fascinating life. But she said, I got to go back to school for that. So she did. She got her master's in creative writing. Then she's like, okay, I've written this book, but all of a sudden I have to do all this work to get it out there. How am I going to do that? And so she goes, I guess I have to create a podcast, right?
No.
So she has this phenomenal podcast called My Cotton Patch Moment. It's so good. And her voice you could listen to all day. And then because she built that platform, she was able to get her book published. And so at the age of 72, boom. So, these are the conversations we're having. And I'm just here to plant seeds, help people figure things out, and not be caged by their age. Be able to say, okay, well, that person, and I do this also on my Instagram feed or my YouTube or TikTok feeds, show examples of people talking about their bodies or talking what it's like to be 65. Because when you talk about worthiness, we see the 30, 40, 50-year-olds all trying to love themselves and all of this. Trust me, when your body is in decline into some serious aging, you have to have a whole nother level of not only radical self-love, Nicolette, you have to have an compassion and patience, because your body is no longer going to move at the pace you were used to having it move at. It's going to just not look the way you thought. You have to have an adjustment to loving yourself, wrinkled, crepe-skinned, brain, all the things that happen. Because at the same time, it is such a privilege to still be alive. And so to answer your question about wasting a generation of talent, you've got 20 years of a generation that has incredible wisdom, incredible adaptability and agility, but most importantly, you've got a whole population of people who know how to communicate, because we didn't have the internet or texting. We had to go and work the crowd. We had to have conversations. We had to learn how to write. We had to learn all those things. And so that level of relationship building and human touch is so important for organizations today.
Wow. What are your thoughts about the trajectory that we are going right now? This is, tractions are starting about ageism, like this. Like, where do you see us in the next 3 to 5 years? How do we position? How do people of 60 above of age can position themselves?
I think they need to rewire. So I don't think they need to retire. I think they need to rewire their brains.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, there's actually a book called Don't Retire, Rewire. She'll be on the show in a few weeks, but Jerry wrote it in 2001. And what it is we've got to take these beliefs that we've taken on and do the work to dissolve them. just like you have done the work in order to detach from a toxic work environment and a toxic relationship and find out and do the work of what do I really want and who do I really want to be and where do I want to take myself professionally that will be fulfilling and give me my ikigai. And so
you're hitting all the points here. I love it.
And so I'm hoping that those over 65, and look, there's nothing wrong if you want to play with your grandkids all day and work in the garden. Love that for you. But 7 out of 10 folks in pre-retire age do not want to stop working. There is a level of community and fulfillment and accomplishment and all the things, all the feels as well that come with working. And so I want to encourage people to continue to do the work, continue to look at their mindset, continue to look at what blocks are preventing them from even exploring. We had on episode 3, we had Mary Bartnikowski who sold all her possessions and became a solo traveler as an older woman. And how did she do that? Because who can afford that, right? She's living off of some savings and her Social Security check. How does she do that? Well, there's ways to be a volunteer, so all your expenses are paid. And how do you get community if you're hanging out in Sicily or somewhere in Jakarta? You can get online and find out expats are getting together. If there are any meetups going on, just all these incredible tips to manage this time. If solo travel is what you might want to do, just trying to plant in people's heads different threads they could pull on. And that's what I'm hoping as we go out 3 to 5 years, that there is a shift from, anybody over 55 has no ambition. They're permafrost in a company to, hey, how can we help you up your game? You're 60. You've been contributing to the organization for, however long period of time. What do you need to up your game? Nobody talks about that in HR.
Yeah.
Right? If you're over a certain age.
It's like, it's automatic 59, 58. Oh, so he or she is retired in 2 years' time. So,
oh my gosh, I go to see the doctor.
Let's plan for the retirement party instead of how can we?
And nobody would ask you, Nicolette. So you're retired?
Yeah.
No, but I go to the doctors. I go to buy a car, and they go, "So are you retired?" And I'm like, "Oh, ageist much?"
Yes, clap them back.
And when I was in the startup ecosystem, doing all these events and pitch events, and I'd hear people say, well, pitch your startup as if you were trying to explain it to your grandmother. And I'd be like, all right, we got to shut that down right now. We were coding and building tech companies way before you were born. I don't want to hear that nonsense. Come on.
Yes.
We got to get rid of that meme about because they're old, they don't know how to use technology. 67 here, please. I teach my kids, my young sons.
Oh things. My God.
So anyway,
I love that, and I feel like I could talk to you all day. I think no wonder you have so much success with your podcast, like 750. Aww. Come on.
So Nicolette, can I read my favorite quote that, as you can see, I'm going to show it to you. It's got so many little. It's all. Can
I read it? You are always a valuable, worthwhile human being, not because anybody says so, not because you're successful, not because you make a lot of money, but because you decide to believe it and for no other reason.
It's a practice, though, right? It's a practice.
Yeah. I actually, how I close my show is for you to leave a quote, for a guest to leave a quote. So I guess I will be getting a quote from you later on. That's my quote. Wayne Dyer nailed it. Wayne Dyer nailed. Okay, so we reshuffle. That's fine. Andy, so why is anti-aging messaging so harmful to women? Oh my gosh, how to not feel like you're enough. Oh my God, you got wrinkles? We got to fix that, girl. I got to get. You have signs of wrinkles? Oh, that's it. You're no good. You are no good. You are no longer beautiful. You are no longer enough. Or your body, come on.
Look, you're aging every single day. Right now is the youngest you'll ever be in your life, right now. And the next minute, that's going to be the youngest you'll ever be in your life. You have to stop this anti-aging messaging that goes out that especially tells women that they are not enough because they've got signs of life. So Brandi Carlile has this wonderful song called The Story. And the words start off with all of these lines across my face. Tell you the story of where I've been. Tell you the story of who I am and how I got back from where I've been, right? These lines on our faces and the brown spots, and I also call them the barnacles, are there because your body is aging, which means you need to do even more work on what is the beauty you bring that shows through your eyes. And I'm not saying don't get dolled up. Of course, throw on all the makeup, throw on all the accessories and the hats and the clothing. Be styled if you want, or don't, you know. It's however you want to be in the world, but don't tell me to stop aging, and don't tell me that aging is bad and we want to fix that about you. No. Tell me I'm a mean and cruel person, we want to fix that about you, but don't tell me the natural aging process is wrong. And brands are not getting it. However, that said, Harper's Bazaar and Vogue out of the UK, especially out of Europe, have been featuring the most extraordinary women. Carol Burnett, who's over 90. Loretta, I think it's Loretta O'Grady. I mean, a conceptual artist who's been waiting now that she's 89 for people to catch up to her art, still has her punk rocker look and vibe to her. She's got the black down the center. She's a woman of color, and the white coming out the left and right. She's probably listening to the Ramones. I mean, come on. They're carrying women who are well over 60, more like 70s and 80s, on the cover of their magazine. Yes, they're dolled up. They've got their fancy outfits on and stuff, but that's being in character for them. And but they're old, and that's okay.
I am embracing my, how do I say? Embracing my day to day, because tomorrow I'm older. I really have.
And wiser.
And wiser, exactly. And I remember a former boss, she passed 2022, and she said, I don't really understand why we need to fight aging. And I remember she said it very proudly. She said, I would love to age gracefully. And that term stuck with me. I think I left the firm at 2015. I think 2015. When she passed, she was 42. She was like she was 20,
so young.
25. Yeah, so young.
See what I mean, folks? It's a privilege to be 67.
Yeah, exactly.
42. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So but that word from her, she's always been this person that I look up to. So when that news came, I was like a bit shocked, but I guess she has a different purpose now. So yeah.
Well, we're all getting, we're getting better at how we look at, what comes out of our mouth, right? I'm just going to push back a little bit on the aging gracefully, Nicolette, because in the ageist movement, ageism movement, this implies that an individual has somehow aged better or more slowly than societal norms. And so the expression we want to grow into is, you look great for any age, right? Because, aging gracefully is right up there with, you look great for your age. And
right.
Some of us are born with really good DNA. Some of us didn't smoke or hang out in the sun. So we're going to look different. Our bodies are going to look different. Mine is strictly genetics with a little bit of, I wasn't into the sun. So I just want to say,
love your looks, by the way. Stunning.
It's because I vibe. Stunning. And so And so, everybody's going to get better at how they use their words. And so that we can honor someone just by saying, you look great, period.
Andy, you look great, period.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
I love the hair. I love everything about you. Really, really. You are just this ray of light. Like, yeah,
Thank
no
you,
wonder.
Nicolette.
No wonder people come to you to talk.
Well, and my brand is called Ande Lyons, which someone gave me on Twitter back in 2011. They like, you are Ande Lyons. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
right.
I'm gonna use that. Yeah. oh, Andy, you okay. I'm gonna ask on the business side, since you are seasoned at this. What does someone need to know when they're starting a business for the first time?
They need to know several things. They need to understand what their minimum value proposition is. That means what idea do I have? And then you have to test it. You have to go out and get enough feedback from people who are not your family and friends, people who do not know you, and get that feedback, because this is where you learn to be adaptable and flexible, because you're going to start off with probably a really great idea. But if nobody wants to buy it, it's not going anywhere. Or if the timing isn't right, it's not going anywhere. If we didn't have the 2008 economic crash, would Airbnb have worked? Would Uber have worked? It was beautiful timing. And there are lots of businesses who go under because it's not the right time. Also, set some money aside. In fact, side hustles are wonderful, meaning keep employed. Have the ability to pay the rent, unless you're young enough and you can move home with your parents. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Find ways to get the overhead low, because you want enough time and runway. There's a mythology that if I build it, they will come, right? That's not going to happen. The other mythology is that it's going to happen within 2 to 3 years. No, you start a business, look at it over a 10-year period. And then also see how quickly you can become profitable and sustainable. And finally, understand the CAC LTV ratio. CAC is the customer acquisition costs. How much is it going to cost me to bring on a customer? And what is the lifetime value of that customer? So if you have a product or service that gets used again and again, it's easier to count. And I have a great video. Go to my channel, Ande Lyons Advice, to understand why you need to know that. And a lot of folks do not look at this end of their business, and it is so important. And then finally, too, as you are building your team for your startup, understand that the team you're building for a startup is a team of folks who are willing to take less pay, if any, who are part of the whole passion. We're going to do this run. It's kind of like that first 18 months of falling in love with someone, right? Very high energy, really great. But founders, remember, and this could be even yourself, as you scale your business and you start to leave the startup realm, and you need to really think about scaling where you are growing at a much higher rate, to bring on people who know how to manage and lead with that level of growth, who have worked in enterprises, not startups. So, and I say that because a lot of time where companies, startups can run into trouble is with their talent acquisition, and helping those folks who come on initially, who have a great skill set from that initial hustle. They will not most often have the same skill set required and needed for a really big growth stage. So you often can tell folks when they're coming on board, this is your title now, this is what you're going to be doing now, and I promise when we hit 5 million, 15 million, whatever that growth stage is going to look like, I will make sure that you are part of the hiring process for the person you'll be working with over you. That is the reality. And then finally, remember, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. There's another business behind it.
I love it. And
And
you learn a thing or two
oh,
from it.
it's such
Yeah.
a good run. Such
Yeah.
a good, fun thing to do. And more women do it because they want to be able to raise their families and they don't want the constraints.
So
And
walk me that first step just now, Andy. You said get the some sort of a survey from people if they're
yeah, so if you've come up with an idea, whether it's tech or a product,
or
food,
service.
whatever, or a
Right.
service, you need to go where your customers are. You have to really understand your customer persona and who
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be vibing with. Because as Seth Godin said, sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for us. So when someone feels unworthy because, oh, this has been done before, I invite them to walk down the bread aisle at the grocery store, where you're going to find new brands always coming in and the old brands are still hanging out there, and there's probably 30 choices for your whole wheat bread
Mm-hmm.
or your rolls. It's the same thing. It's how you are bringing this product or service to the world for the people who want it from you. So you go and once you figure out who they are, you go where they are. It could be at a conference, it could be at a trade show, and you ask them if they'd be willing to test your product, try your product, and give honest feedback about your product.
Wow. What about service? How'd you do that? How'd you navigate that?
Same thing. You go where, so if you're providing financial services, if you're providing life coaching services, you go where you're going to find your customers. And then when you know your persona, someone, I'm only working with women who are 40 and over and divorced, so
So
they're going to go.
for example, people who have self-esteem issues.
Right.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
everybody has self-esteem issues. So that's actually a little too broad. So you're going to want to
Okay.
go and say, all right,
Narrow it down. Like,
given the big pie chart that all of humanity has this self-esteem issues and worthiness issues, who do I want to work with initially? And that's your I think it's called your SAM, your serviceable area market. That's a little bit piece of the pie, and there's launch area, marketable area. But it's that small group of people that you get to test and get the feedback from, and then you can start expanding. Okay, well, now I'm going to include men, or now I'm going to include whatever population. But it's mostly not the demographics, it's the psychographics. It's what are they going through. So psychographics, yeah, just Google
oh, that's a
psychographics
good.
and it'll really help you understand the psychology, because that could be your target market, is people who are overachievers in high stress jobs and people pleasers. Yeah. And then you can narrow it down just a little bit more in this segment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or this location. But the psychographics are so important. What motivates them? What beliefs are motivating them? How are they living their lives? What are the stories they tell themselves and others? That sort of thing. And you can go and watch any of my episodes of Startup
Yes.
Life, and they're all in there because I share that all the time.
On YouTube.
On
Right.
YouTube. Ande Lyons on
Fantastic.
YouTube, Startup Life
Fantastic. Oh, wow,
Show.
wow, wow,
250
wow.
episodes, and we talk about it
I'm
all.
gonna binge on all of that. Andy, oh my God, this is me asking advice from you. Like, I'm asking that for a friend, but actually it's for me. As I'm about to
That
launch
is
my own
absolutely
things.
fine.
Um, what is your advice for launching a podcast? I took this.
Do it. Okay, here's the scoop, folks. Yes, it can be scary. Find a group. I just launched the New England Podcasters group to help, everybody can hold hands, get group hugs, get support, find out from seasoned. If they want to be a podcaster, they can, get some hand holding. Hand holding is lovely. So find a podcasting community, get the good mic. All right. You can get a really good mic on Amazon in US dollars, $70.
Testing.
Audio is everything. But that's the biggest place you're going to spend the money. You
Yes.
can, for free, you can use Zoom to record. So you can set up a free account, just keep it under 45 minutes. You know the rules for Zoom. Podpage, set up a great website on Podpage. That might cost you $18 a month. Get Descript for editing. That's maybe $12 a month. You can do Opus.
Hang on. I'm on. Can you repeat that?
Which
What was
one?
that, Andy? The first one,
Pod
Pod
page?
Page. Yeah,
Pod
Pod
page. Oh my
Page.
God. I swear these people have to stay in business. If you've ever had to set up a website and then add the podcast, it's a pain in the neck. Podpage makes you look so bona fide. Go to my account. You'll see the guests. You'll see reviews. You'll see all of these things. It just comes with that. You can choose whatever they have a great template. If you're great at coding, you can do all sorts of fancy stuff, but you can pop in your brand colors. Podpage will import your RSS feed. I use
Right.
Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout for me for 6 hours a month is $18 a month. I'm saying this because listeners, you can see how after your one-time cost of a microphone, your monthly nugget, where you have to come up with is under $100 for you to record, shoot, edit, post, website. You can get a little fancy and get some castmagic.io for some AI. And what Cast Magic does is they give you you upload your audio and they'll give you 10 titles you could use, show notes, keywords, a reel, a newsletter,
Based
a
on the
LinkedIn
SEO.
post. Yep, everything.
Everything.
And you can, and it's so much easier to edit than it is to really come up with original content sometimes. So you'll get enough there to grab your show notes. And for one episode, once you get your systems and procedures down and you stop being so critical and you're about just launch it, just post it, you can get it done between recruiting the guests, interviewing the guest, preparing for the interview, and then everything, maybe initially probably take you about 10 hours a week, but you can get it down to 6 hours a week with good systems and procedures, understanding, you have to have show notes, a script for when you interview people, and then how you create, Canva, $9 a month.
Oh, I love
Opus,
that.
yeah, Opus Edit is a new, not that new, but new for me. They'll take your video and they will create 6-7 clips that are in the portrait format. So they'll take this side by side that we're doing right now and put it up on top. And then they'll take the caption and it'll be going across,
Right.
all in there. It is really one of the real bells and whistles. So anyway, folks, the most important thing is that you just do it again and again and again and again consistently until you get your sea legs, until you sit there and go, all right.
I'm getting the hang of it.
And it could take a year.
Yes.
I mean, in 2012, it took me a good year before I was not shaking at the knees. And really, who cares? Initially, folks, nobody's going to be listening. I'm not nobody, but you're not going to have that many downloads.
That's true.
If you get 20 downloads an episode, in my humble opinion, it's a win, because what would you give to have 20 people in a room listening to you?
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't this, I got 10,000 downloads. How can I get more? It's like, who are these people? And do they really care about what you're saying, or is that a vanity metric?
Ooh, I love that. and this script, what do you do for this script? Like just a scripting.
What do I do for what?
Descript.
Descript is the editing. Yeah. Well, see, what I love about Descript is that you upload your audio, and now you've got a transcript. And you can see, I rambled here. I got to just get rid of that whole thing. It takes it out of the audio. So all you have to do is traditional cut and paste. Highlight the text you don't want. It deletes it. The first time someone says, you can double click on that and you can say remove all the ums. And it takes all of that out. And it just helps you tighten up and sometimes I still have to go in and use Filmora on myself, but to tighten up the audio just a little. But really, it's a wonderful experience, but you have to get past that 10 episode hurdle.
Yeah. Wow. What is your heart's greatest wish, Andy?
My heart's greatest wish? Wow. I guess to live however long I have left where I can serve the world and serve myself and stay engaged with my mission, my vocation, my passion, Ikigai. And my purpose, my ikigai. That's and however that shows up is always fascinating to me.
Is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
Oh, no. Funny you should mention that, Nicolette. I had insomnia for 40 years due to post-traumatic. But the
Really?
truth about
40.
insomnia is that once it becomes a thing, your brain's neuroplasticity gets the grooves. And so I woke up in January of 2022 and said, I am either going to learn how to embrace this, anxiety, or I'm going to friggin' fix it. And I went into therapy, and the therapist knew that this was my goal. So I was working on insomnia. And she said, I know this guy, this doctor at Dana-Farber, it's our big cancer institution here, hospital here in Boston, who helps adults and children with sleep. But I know he has a side practice. I think you should talk to him. So I had 15 minutes with this guy, Dr. Eric Zhou, Zhou. And he was the first person who explained insomnia exactly how it was for me. He had me do 2 weeks of sleep, taking notes on my sleep pattern. And he said, okay, here's the scoop. You only need, at the most, 6 hours of sleep. You spend all the time worried about getting 8. And that's like getting 8 hours of sleep. And so I was spending so much time in bed and being tired. And he goes, no. Here's what we're going to do. Because it'd be like saying, what's the average height of men in America? 5'10". My husband's 6'3". What are we going to chop off? No, right? He's 6'3". He's going to move through life as 6'3". Same thing with me. So he compressed my sleep. He said, you can't go to bed until 11:30 at night at the earliest. And you have to get up at 6 a.m. And all of a sudden, I was like, wow, I have so much more time in my day. And it took well, first of all, my sleep went right into a pattern within months. But it took probably a good 9 months for me to feel safe with that pattern. Like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to get the insomnia again. I'm going to get the insomnia again. I would just track. I got up, went to bed at 11:30. And people would say, oh, Ande, can you meet me at 8 a.m.? I'm like, absolutely. I've all been up 2 hours. Or Ande, can you chat at 10 p.m.? I'm like, I got an hour and a half to go. Of course I can. It was just a whole. And so now I can say 2 years later to this month, I don't worry about will I sleep or not. I'm going to have bad nights. I'm going to have nights where I'm up more. But guess what? It's not a big deal anymore. Whereas before, it would trigger probably 4 days in a row with no sleep.
Wow.
So I can't. The story for me is I really occasionally I might get 7 or 8, but I can't try to do that. I have to keep myself awake and keep my sleep condensed to 6 hours. So what keeps me up at night? Because I just had to share that side story. You never know. A listener might be tuning in and be like, that's been my problem, right?
Yes.
What keeps me up at night? In America, there's a lot that keeps me up right now at night. That's pretty much it.
Are you going to expand on that, or we'll just let it
Oh, God. I mean, being a woman right now, we're going back hundreds of years. And we got to fix that. And so and certainly the last hurrah of white European male patriarchy is taking a nice little gasp because it's going down. We will not be an autocracy. But that's the activist side. We'll have that for the activist podcast.
Yes.
And
okay, Ande, last one. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I am grateful for all that I am. All right, hold on. I say it to myself all the time, but now, of course, I have to think about it. I am so grateful for all that I have and all that I am. And then I like to couple it with, it's so easy to receive.
It's so easy to receive. Because it is.
Well, as a woman, we tend to be givers, right?
Yes.
And so to receive compliments, to receive abundance, to receive worthiness, to receive I am enough, it has to be easy for us to receive.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Ande, for your time. I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. I will be checking out your profile, and please, let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. If you ever need anybody to just cheer you on, or, seriously, you've done some incredible self-work, so I'm so proud of you. Thank you for caring enough and being willing to set aside all the stuff and go, wow, this is my moment. And as Mildred would say, your cotton patch moment. It's where you are like, that I'm not picking cotton for the rest of my life. I'm not taking crumbs, right? I am not. That's what you're doing. And I'm so happy and I'm so grateful for you. And thank you.
Thank you so much. You
I'm
are
here
an
in your
angel.
corner, remember, especially around podcasting.
Yes. Thank you, Ande.
Bye, Nicolette. Thank you for making my Thursday so delicious. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.